All right.
Breakfast too.
We online too?
Yep.
Good. Sweet. Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Southport Planning Board meeting. Today is October 17th, 2025. We have a special meeting today to go over the review and only the review of the proposed rules and procedures. Let's start off with a stand for those who can and do an invocation and then follow by the pledge of allegiance. So today's invocation is just a little bit different, besides asking for guidance and ensuring that each of us respects each other's opinions, regardless of how different they may be, and treat them as if they were our own. But most importantly, today, after the tragic events about 10 days ago that impacted Southport, I'd like to just give a moment of silence just for those folks that were harmed, if we could. Thank you. And I also ask that those that lost their lives, who were harmed, their families, and all the first responders and everybody in the city, that they be kept in the palm of God's hands. Thank you. And pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it wasn't even after the invocation, I just got a flat, sorry. So, because it is a special meeting, there isn't any moment allowance for public comment. As I said, it's also a single use, if you will. It's important when we do special meetings that we just have one focus, and that way it allows us to get things moving along very quickly. We do have a meeting, our regular meeting is on October 16th. So if there's anything that we need to bring up, then we'll certainly have the agenda beforehand. But if you do have some input for that, please feel free to send them on. So on the rules of procedure, Doug reached out to me, asked if we had an updated version. And I responded to Doug that, no, I'm not updating anything until we get through this, because I would start having 15 versions and I'd forget where I stopped. And what I find when you do things like that too, is that you want to be rehashing what you've already hashed. So this way we'll continue on starting on page 5, which is the rules of conduct for members, probably the most important parts. And we do, by the way, we do have a form that we'll make these changes. Once we get everything done, we'll do the second draft, do a final pass through, vote on it, unless there's some radical changes, vote on it, and then we'll send it on a copy to the Board of Aldermen, and we'll start working on it. Just a reminder that the rules of procedure is really just a guardrail on how we, not what we do, but how we do things. And just, it's not meant to be the be all end all. It's really just a guide. So that way, when we get caught on different things, we can refer back to this, but I don't ever want it to be something that's so carved in stone that we can't go outside those guardrails. So it's really just a nice guide for how we actually run our meetings, how we're organized, how we take care of things. Some of the other work that's being done in the handbook will help us along with what we do and how we do it. That'll help with our training and everything. So, sure, go.
Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
So you're saying the rules and procedures live outside the UDO administrative guidance?
No, there are parts of it that have to follow the UDO guidance, but there are other parts which don't. So if you look at the UDO, there are actually some things that will be very specific.
Yes.
Membership and, appointments and things like that. So we have to adhere to those, but this will help cover off some of those items as well as some of those things that aren't in the UDO. But at the end of the day, the UDO is the rules.
Okay.
Okay. Good question though. So starting off on rules of conduct for members. So one of the first things is and this is also in the UDO or some part of it, if I remember correctly, if any member has an unexcused absence for 2 consecutive regular meetings, we'll ask the clerk to notify that member to see what's going on if they want to continue on the board. That's unusual. Most likely people are going to always know that they're going to be absent, docs, appointments, kids, grandkids, travel, things like that. So if you're ever going to be absent, just let them know. It's when this is in here, so if people disappear off the board, we have a way to start taking some action, to let the alderman know that, hey, we have some, a member that's not coming to the regular meetings, and go from there, so. One thing that I have to go back and look at the UDO is on the second paragraph, it says vacancy shall exist if a board member is absent from 25% or more of the board's meetings within a 12-month period. So that's a pretty radical thing, but it also gives us that avenue. If somebody doesn't come to 3 out of the meetings, then we have a way to, again, go to the alderman. The alderman will have to have some kind of a procedure. I have no idea what it is on calling a vacancy. I don't know if they have to have a hearing or what have you, so. Okay. Everybody good with those? And this is just a free-for-all, rules, you know, of decorum. Don't worry about it today. I want to make sure that we have some really good input going all the way around, so.
Larry,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's fine.
on that second paragraph, the second sentence there, vacancy shall exist on the board if a member is absent. Is that non-excused absence or just absent?
That's a good question. What are your thoughts?
Go up to the previous paragraph.
So change it to, unexcused absence?
Well, then you need to define what an excused absence is.
Or absence without notification.
Yeah, I like that, absence without notification. I don't know, if you reach a point where, you know, you always try to be sensitive to people's, we all have stuff going on in our lives, you know, family and everything else. And I don't want to be the arbiter of what's an excused absence versus what's an unexcused absence. I'm not a school teacher or principal. I don't want to play that role.
I just don't want absence, you know, being absent to be construed as, you know, a cumulative thing.
Mm,
Whether it's excused or not excused, it's considered an absence or could be considered an absence.
yeah. Maria, you're looking at the UDO, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
What do you see?
I see that it has the unexcused, it has the absences, and my comment was gonna be, and it goes exactly as your rules and procedures do, 25%. My comment was gonna be, we only are legally or, as a board, supposed to meet 12 times a year. Sometimes they're canceled. If you miss 4 out of 12, 25%,
That's even.
Three.
Yeah,
Three.
Yeah.
I think it goes to the lack of commitment, if you will.
Yep.
In which we pledged our commitment as part of our oath to do these things. I think that people adjust their schedule, even with family, with the exception of a longer term illness.
Yeah.
And in which case, they may be able to come or attend online. We even provide online capabilities. So I'm all for leaving it as absences because it goes to the commitment of being on this board.
And does that say absence in it as well? Not
Let me get the exact paragraph, sorry.
Would you consider, if somebody is attending online, would you consider that as an absence or they are present for that?
They are present.
They are present for that,
Technology.
As much as I think it's nice having people be able to attend online, I think there's a limit to that as well. You know, because then you have to start questioning again, the commitment, and other things may happen, but if they're gonna do 50% of their meetings online, then you have to say, you know, do you really have the input that you really wanna have? But that's for another,
It doesn't actually say.
Sure, I have it right here.
okay,
It's states the absence from 4 regularly scheduled board meetings during one calendar year will be considered for cause of a recommendation to the board of aldermen from the planning board. So that specifically says regular meetings, regular scheduled, so that'd be the monthly meetings, so that would not count towards any of the special meetings that are called. And that section,
so we should switch back into that.
2.3C.
Say it again?
That's section 2.3C, it's page 2-6 in the PDF.
Yes, it is.
All right, so why don't we incorporate that language? So that it shows that, yes, the seat is declared open after 4 absences.
Well, the key word there was consideration.
Yeah,
So that's kind of,
And also regular meetings,
yeah.
which I,
Listen, I'll tell you what, here's what's gonna happen. If somebody's missing 4 meetings, we're gonna blast it over to the city clerk. City clerk's gonna send it over to the alderman, and then it's in the alderman's seat to decide what they wanna do. You know, we're just the reporters of. But I mean, it's something we wanna hold ourselves to certainly, but just know that if you're gonna miss 4 meetings, I would hope that you would say, look, I can't do this anymore. If you had 3 meetings, I would hope you would say, I can't do this anymore, especially 3 consecutive meetings. So,
that's been our experience. Open heart surgery is good for 2 meetings.
I'd say that's an experience, but okay.
Has been an issue?
I think, and I'm completely talking to stool here. I think there may have been some past folks that may have had some health issues that precluded them from being able to be, make the meetings.
Yeah.
And they ultimately resigned when they recognized that things, were just, you know, everybody looks, when you're ill, you're gonna get better. And sometimes it doesn't work that way, you know, as quickly as you would hope. So you have to have that eventuality, especially if in our board, you want to make sure that, as Maria said, you make a commitment, you stick to the commitment.
And so the idea is, the unspoken part is, if Doug has some rare form of cancer, at some point he's going, hey guys, I just can't do the thing, and I'm gonna voluntarily,
Yeah,
so step out.
and there are sometimes in outside of that, if you don't, then I would always do the first thing, which is give you a call, say, how you doing? Can you make it? Can you not make it? You know, I think having to go back to the alderman is such a last resort, but that's really for somebody that, I've been on a board in the past where somebody stuck their feet in the ground and said, by God, I'm gonna stay on this board until you throw me off. And so we had to go through the steps. This has been another community had to go through the steps where, and they resigned the night that they were doing the hearing to toss the person off. They did, you know, but there are some people that can get really indignant about things, and unfortunately, I don't see this on this board at all. So do you want me to incorporate that section 2.3C on page 226 in there? For that, after the word, second sentence on, how's that? Will that work?
That works.
Yeah.
Adding regular meetings works.
Yeah.
Either or, it's
Yep.
easy.
Okay. Good. Saves us a lot of work on changing UDOs too. Conflict of interest. I would hope nobody has any problem with this. If you have a conflict of interest, you're always going to refrain. One thing I'm not certain of, I remember correctly here. So on the conflict of interest itself, the 160D-109, well, you have to declare it. And I would hope that this board, we're a pretty small community, would know also if you had kind of a conflict of interest. I always have been of the ilk that if I even have a doubt, I'm gonna refrain, you know, just to make sure that it doesn't appear that I have any type of conflict. So is everybody good on B?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a good example could be, if I'm a realtor, if I had real estate conflict of interest, I'm a builder, if I had building guidelines conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Would be a good example.
Yeah, and that's where it's a little bit of a fine line, because you're, as a builder, you still have a right to comment as a planning board member, but if it was something that was before us, that it was one of your properties, I'd say that's absolute conflict of interest. But if it has to do with zoning or building, what have you, then to me, I don't see how that's it's close, but I think, and if we need to, we'll ask for legal opinion. No, I don't think there's any problem with doing that at all. If we ever have anything on the agenda, you want to do that, we can always go through through Mo for get a legal opinion on whether it is a conflict of interest to act on behalf of the city or not.
The la-
Yep.
Mr. Chair, on the last sentence, it says members have a duty to vote and may not be excused from voting due to an unwillingness to vote. This has come up several times
Mhm.
since our new members have been on board, and it's come up in our primer discussions.
Yeah.
Can we cite where that comes from legally so that even in the primer, that's something guidance? I don't think it's 160D. I think it is another legal statement.
Yeah, Tori brought that up, I think last time too. So
I'm just saying we should cite it
sure,
in that for our primer, as we're trying to orient new members.
yeah,
That's
It's a good idea.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
so,
okay. Yeah, and again, just so that we're clear, where it says, due to an unwillingness to vote with no conflict of interest, it's not certainly if you've got a conflict, you're not gonna vote.
correct.
Okay, yeah, Tori, we can get a citation on that, can't we? I remember you mentioned it the last time too, that it was a law.
Yeah.
Or a policy, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
State statute.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's, I'll file.
Yeah,
Citation means reference to a statute.
yeah, so we've got up here in NCGS 160D-109B,
Right.
we'll put that in there as well, so that if somebody is looking for the law,
Correct.
we'll have it right in here, so. Because it could come up again, somebody say, well, what does it say, I have to do that?
I really want to abstain. Well, you can't, you have to vote, right?
Yeah.
If
So-
somebody abstains, they
I guess it's more of like, being as a board member, your obligation is to vote. That is why you are elected as a member, is so that you are there to vote. Otherwise, why would you be elected? You're just up there sitting. So I
There
think that's
may
what
be
you're
a
thinking.
petition. There is a North Carolina general statute
Yeah.
for officials.
Yeah.
That statute is 160A, tax 75.
Thank you.
You have the,
160A, tax 75.
Okay,
what does it say?
So somebody,
Item A is, and I read, no member shall be excused from voting except upon matters involving the consideration of the member's own financial interest or official conduct, or on matters on which the member is prohibited from voting under GS 114-234 or GS 160D 109. In all other cases except those taken under GS 160D 601, a failure to vote by a member who is physically present in the council chamber or who has withdrawn without being excused by the majority of votes of the remaining members present shall be reported as an affirmative vote. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes,
The question of the compensation and allowances of members of the council is not a matter involving a member's own financial interest or official conduct. So basically, if you refuse to vote, it's an affirmative vote. And unless you're conflicted out.
Thanks.
So we really don't have to change the wording here, we just
No.
add the citation.
Yeah. So, again, on C, looking for members not to try to influence the decision where it may involve matters, meaning do not call folks up and say, can you vote for this? Because that's just really bad form. Not to mention, not a good idea. So remember, they may be excused from voting on a particular issue under the following circumstances. Members' own official conduct, which I hope we never have to worry about conduct. If the member has such close personal ties to the applicant, and cannot reasonably be expected to exercise sound and impartial judgment on behalf of the public's interest. Let's face it, if your spouse is coming in for something, yeah, you need to step away. You know, now if it's a fifth cousin, that's a little concerning, but yeah, but no close personal tie. I had one once, I think my ex-wife came in, if I remember correctly, abstained also just for something previous. To me, it was close enough and I didn't want to have that appearance of a conflict. And also if there's certainly C, which is probably the biggest, if the outcome of the matter is being considered is reasonably likely to have a direct, substantial and readily identifiable financial impact on the member. And that's just, you're gonna put money in your pocket or it's gonna cost you money or make you money, then you absolutely need to step away. So E, is everybody okay on that section? Okay, so C is good, okay. Cool. So on D, you can challenge, if somebody, say Fred says, hey, I'm a builder, but I'm not gonna abstain, board can actually challenge that. So it's not limited to just Fred saying, hey, I'm not gonna abstain. If the board thinks there's enough of a conflict, you can challenge that as well. So,
Why do you have a red question?
I think it was the part about, the planning board shall hear all evidence and the finding of the board shall require a majority vote of the remaining members. I think it was, I wanted to make sure that this was really looked at, that would this work with this board? Could you easily do this? So I think it was questioning the whole paragraph too, not just the end now that I think about it. Probably should have made a note for myself. And I don't know how you hear evidence other than, I don't want a formal process that you have to do a public hearing or something like that, so. Any thoughts on that one? Doug, I know you do.
Only the ones that I submitted, which is, there's a lot in here that's repetitive, and I think we decided last time that repetition's not our enemy in this case.
Yeah. If there's parts of it can skinny down, certainly skinny them down too. So, and I do not have copies of what both of you provided to me. I have it on here, but not in writing. So we'll have to go back. I should have asked them to be added into the packet. That's my fault.
I'm struck by the word all evidence because sometimes it's hearsay.
Mhm.
I like the word evidence.
Take
It
out-
is hearing it, but I think the reminder is to look at what is fact versus propaganda, hearsay,
sure.
innuendo.
Yep.
Because that seems to run amok these days.
You're thinking, what were you in charge?
I'm just, that's the word I'm stuck on.
Take out the
and I
word
don't
all.
get it.
Take out the word all. This should be enough, I would think, if Fred has a conflict, that Fred's gonna give us enough detail to tell us why he doesn't think he's in conflict. And I'm using Fred as an example, not suggesting that he's gonna have this, but I think if you take out the word all, because you don't want to drag this out forever. It should be a very quick, hey, this is why I don't think it's a conflict. And Doug can say, well, I think it is, and this is why. Then the board votes, and that goes from there.
I'm good with that.
Take out the word all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that could really get, God, yeah. That could get draggy.
Well,
Yeah, okay. So,
remember, there's multiple truths now in America.
but not on this board, there should be one truth.
Okay.
So anyways,
So we're taking out the word all, where's that again?
that is
Last
the last sentence. It says the planning board shall hear all evidence. It's gonna be the planning board shall hear evidence. And I'll take out that question mark too. I think it was just, I wanted to really have input on that. So.
And if that vote were not able to be decided, pretty much that issue should be tabled until we can work through it.
Yes.
If it's a real issue.
Yeah, would you think that if it was that much of a conflict that the person would just say, you know what, I'm just gonna step back? Because if you started getting ponderous about whether somebody's got a conflict or not, I would just hope somebody would be a lady or gentleman enough to say, you know what, this, I don't want to cause controversy. But yeah, you're right, it could be tabled to the next meeting, but I don't want to hold up any applicants just because we can't make up our own minds on whether there's a conflict or not. That's, then we want to make sure that applicants have a speedy process through this.
Man,
Yeah,
what's in our history?
before me, what's been your history?
There haven't really, nobody's ever recused themselves, that I recall.
Because it seems like this will bite us at the most awkward time, so we may want to make the guidance now,
Clear.
well, I don't know about clear, just expansive, because it won't be some easy thing. If I get intransigent and say, nope, I'm sticking in on this vote, it won't be an easy issue.
You're likely to be outvoted.
Well, yeah, so we,
Out of spite, but yeah.
so if you
Yeah.
need any extra words to go, Doug, the decision of the board, just because it's awkward, we're not gonna table it. The decision of the board is, you know, you're not voting.
Yeah,
Is this done in open session or?
oh, yeah, it's absolutely, I don't see it as being a closed session issue at all.
Well, so it'd be, so say I'm on the board and I accuse Doug of having conflict, I would just make a full face motion.
Yes,
I move to call board to this.
yeah,
And then there'll be discussion based on some body of evidence.
Right.
yeah,
And then after you give your innuendo, we give ours, we vote, whoever wins, you're either out or you're in.
that's
Yeah, I
right.
just didn't know if this was already established, that it would be during the hearing or if it would be like a closed session.
Yeah, I don't even know that the Alderman have this sort of, what do you have? Do you have anything like this for yours if somebody decides that they're not?
We've only had, I don't think we ever had anybody recuse themselves
Yeah.
one time. Because they had a vested interest
Mm.
in, I can't even remember what it was, but I think that Alderman Kelly recused herself for one instance, and that's the
Yeah.
only one I can
Yeah.
remember.
So you've never had to worry about any challenges or things like that?
No, there haven't been any challenges at
There
all.
was one time, there was the real estate consideration.
Yes,
City
correct.
Hall, Police station location,
Right,
and Robert Carroll was sort of in the middle.
Real-
right, you're
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah,
You're correct. That's exactly right. It was the acquisition of a piece of property.
yeah,
Yes, you're correct.
And I think the language is sufficient. I don't think there should be any talk of, hey, you know what, we'll just table this. I think it's gonna be a controversial issue.
yeah. You know.
That's why it doesn't happen maybe much, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, you'd always expect people to be adults and do the right thing. But people aren't always adults and do the right thing. So that's where we have to do the hard part and say, look, we're gonna challenge you and we think we should.
You know, with that being said, if you'll remember when, Alderman Carroll brought that up, we're gonna go to an outside firm that represents us, all hell broke loose. For the simple reason, well, you got realtors on the board, why you spending taxpayer money to do that?
That's how.
We did the right thing, and somebody just got all flustered about it.
Yeah.
So, Larry, one comment about the last thing. In the scenario that Wendell brought up, Wendell's on the board and he accuses Doug.
Yep.
Right? Doug can't vote. Right? That's what the last sentence to me says. But
The
my,
remaining members,
yeah, so my question is, can Wendell vote?
No.
It reads like, it could read like the challenger and the subject of the challenge would be set aside.
Can't vote.
Who can't vote?
Wendell.
Wendell can't vote and Doug can't vote. So do we have a quorum if Wendell and Doug can't vote? Or is it just Doug?
Wendell, a member?
If Wendell's a member
Okay.
and he accuses Doug,
He lost.
Chair, Ashton,
yeah, 'cause I'm reading this deeply.
I'm reading it completely different.
Okay,
This to me is in the interested party, not the planning board. This is Joe Q citizen saying, I know Fred worked on this property because he's the contractor. I feel that he has a conflict he has not disclosed. And should I have to prove it with evidence to the planning board? The planning board has to then go through that evidence and state whether or not that is then the conflict that exists.
so you're thinking it's outside fighting on the board itself?
Yes, because I think between the board, you'll be able to just, you'll say, okay, you hope that, you know that the person does whatever they do, they're gonna either say, I have a conflict, or I have had dealings with this, but I feel that I can have an unbiased decision, then that's when the planning board will work together to figure that out. So that's when I read this clause, that's how I was interpreting it. I know.
Because of the word any
Any
interested
party.
party, yeah,
So you're filing it with the planning board, it's not the planning board to the planning board.
okay.
We can look into this further if you'd like, but I think.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting deep, and I'd like to keep this moving a little bit, but
Yeah,
we can come back to this one absolutely, but when I read it, that's how I interpret it, and then the remaining members would be those people minus the member in question.
Bo, do you think the language in D excludes a member of the planning board?
Challenging or?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Yeah,
generally, when you use the word interested party, it's usually an applicant or somebody that's being impacted by when you do the interested party on the Board of Adjustment, it's really somebody that actually has a stake in the matter at hand.
Do that thing.
Yeah, it's an understanding, so, yeah, this really would be outside. Listen, I'm gonna open it up. If somebody on this board says, Larry, I don't think you should vote on this, I think that's a fair comment. I think it's, we shouldn't be immune to that, not be able to make those statements and state the reason why, and certainly do it in a nice way, but, yeah.
So if a member of the planning board challenges Doug.
Yeah.
There's not a vote. There's a
I
discussion.
think you can make a motion. I think it's an allowable motion to say, look, I'm gonna make a motion that we ask Doug to recuse himself because of this particular reason, and I think there is a conflict. And then Doug can say, no, I don't have any conflict. I don't have any say in this. I don't have any financial connection or anything else like that. And then the board can take a vote.
And
whether
whether Doug vote in that vote?
I don't see why not. It's like, why, yeah, I mean, he's still a member. It doesn't, just because you're challenged, that's like, could somebody say, I'm gonna challenge all you guys, and I don't like I think you're all in conflict, and I'm gonna vote, and you guys can't, and then I automatically win, because you guys can't vote. So, yeah, it's like Bo said, keeping it moving along. I think we're going deep on this one, but I think, Mo, if you could take a look at it with Wendell, just let's make sure we're on track.
yep.
I think it's an excellent discussion though. And because it keeps people honest, and you never know who's gonna be on a board. And that's what this is for, is some, high bars, low bars, and you have to set the bars for this sort of stuff. So, everybody okay with moving on? All right, great. So Article 7, meetings, regular meetings of the planning board shall be held on third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. in the Board of Aldermen. Chairman may change the location of a regular meeting to another place conveniently located in the city of Southport without notice. So here's the question I have. It says, shall be held. It doesn't say must. So there is an opportunity here that when you have holidays and other things that might come along, like in December. December is usually not a good meeting month because people travel. Big,
Mr. Chair,
sure.
shall has always been interpreted legally as must. They are the same words under any element that you have. And
As opposed to will,
Shall is higher order than will.
below than must.
No, I don't think must is one of those words I don't use, but shall and will. Shall
thou shalt.
trumps will. Yeah.
So here's what I'm looking for then, is some kind of wording that, let's face it, if you set up a meeting in December and Maria's traveling, Fred's traveling, I'm traveling, and you're not gonna have a quorum, you certainly can't have a meeting. And I think along the way, you have to have those allowances to not have a meeting in advance so that people can actually adjust their schedules accordingly.
We just did that.
Yeah, we did.
That's one.
Yes. Well,
Sure.
sorry.
The UDO reads that the planning board meetings will normally occur on the third Thursday of the month at the time and place designated by the board.
Yeah.
And that is page 2-5. 2.3 B.
So that sounds like
That's,
better wording.
yes. I'll incorporate it so that it matches the UDO if nobody's opposed to that. Yeah, it gives us, you have to have some flexibility. Is everybody okay with that? Any opposition to it? Okay. I do have the only thing on may change the location of a regular meeting to another place conveniently located. And that means this location. You're not gonna ever get me to schedule a meeting that can't be televised unless there's some type of emergency or conflict with staff or something like that. We don't have staff availability. Never gonna be at the coffee shop or anything else like that, so.
Not gonna be down at Tishy Fishy this morning.
No, I know, if we had a Dunkin' Donuts, maybe I'd do it there, but.
Oh, it's underwater right now.
I noticed, I saw the tide down there, it's pretty high. So, everybody good on A? All right, special meetings and emergency meetings, special meetings, and my God, I can't imagine why this board would ever have an emergency meeting. Mo, can you think of a reason? I know you have to have something in here, but is there ever a reason that we would ever have?
Not that I can't think of anything, honestly.
Yeah,
Not to say that that won't happen now that we've said something, but I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that would consider.
yeah,
I think if like there was something extremely dangerous with the UDO or a tax amendment that just somehow needs to be pushed forward,
if the Alderman had a
the
request,
Alderman
something like that.
called for it. Yeah.
In order to have our vote or something like that. So the question I have on this part is this notice may be either telephonic, written, or via email. Sorry, from a public advertisement standpoint, don't you have certain requirements that you have to have for even special emergency meetings? Aren't they all the same then? Is there some loophole that allows you to have an emergency meeting without proper prior posting in a public area?
So it depends on the emergency meeting. Emergency meeting it's a specific, it has to be a specific emergency. Like it can't just be like, oh, I forgot to do this. It's an
Yeah.
emergency.
Yeah,
So like a hurricane or something, yes, you can just post it, I think 24, 48 hours ahead of time.
but it says on here that the notice may be given either telephonic, written, or via email. It doesn't have to be, it's beyond that, yeah.
Advertised.
This is the notice.
Well,
That's
from,
not
if it's emergency, you can't get it.
Hmm. See, when I read notice, to me, that's public, I always think that as being public notice. I think that might need a little working.
A good example, for an emergency meeting, if the Board of Aldermen have their meeting this week and they decide to abolish the UDO,
And they need us to vote on it ahead of time.
I don't know if they need to or not.
Yeah.
But we could certainly have an emergency meeting. What does this mean?
Yeah, I do think we need some wording in there on the, notice given so the public is informed. Because the last thing you want to do is not have the, yeah. So. You just check wording on notice. Or Victoria, that. Broadcasting and recording of meetings, all regular special and emergency meetings.
Under the North Carolina, Mr. Chair, excuse me,
Sure.
under North Carolina General Statute 143-318, Tac 12, it says for the purpose of this section, an emergency meeting is one called because of a generally unexpected circumstance that requires immediate consideration by the public body. It doesn't say that it needs immediate consideration and notice for all of the residents. So that's the law,
Well.
which is also already cited in here.
Wouldn't notice be somewhere else then?
They give all of the written notice. For an emergency meeting, the public body shall cause notice of the meeting to be given in the local wire service, local radio station, local television that has filed the written request. So if someone else requests that of you, they can give that notice there. And it says exactly what your draft,
Telephonic written.
yes, exactly.
Okay. So we'll leave it. You want to cite that?
It is cited correctly in the draft 143.
143, 318, 12.
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I looked it up.
Good. That's simple then. Everyone good on B? Leaving it as? Yes. I think that is a yes. Broadcasting record, C, broadcasting and recording a meeting of regular special emergency meeting of the planning board where formed assembled for deliberations and conducted business. Shall always live stream and record meetings on the city's broadcast channel unless otherwise determined by the city manager. City manager shall have the discretion to waive the broadcast requirement should there be any issues relating to staff availability or the cooperation of the live streaming and recording technological devices. So that just means that if Cheyenne's not available, Tori's not available, and nobody else wants can run the equipment. That doesn't keep us from having a meeting. The city manager can say, go ahead and have the meeting, and there you go. Just so you know, there is a resolution by the Board of Health that states exactly this, that all our meetings will be broadcast, which is a great way for the citizens to actually keep up with their everything that's going on in the city's health board and our meetings. So, and that it's the Alderman, the planning board, and the Board of Adjustment all have that, all fall under that resolution. So again, the city manager, if streaming isn't working, if the city hasn't paid their cable bill and that sort of thing, then it doesn't prevent us from actually meeting. Okay. Everybody good on the city? Hope so. We don't have a whole lot of choice on that one. Whenever there on C, cancellation of meetings, whenever there is no business to come before the board, the chair may dispense with a regular meeting by giving notice to all members not less than 24 hours prior to the time set for the meeting. So along the way, you have to define business. You know, so updates of business, but if there aren't any updates, if there are no actions coming before us, there's no reason to have a meeting just for the sake of saying, let's get together and kumbaya and have a meeting. So, but for the most part, we should always have some kind of an update.
I have two comments on this section. First one is, I think it should go with the section that you changed from shall to regular meetings, which is A.
Yep.
Because it goes along with the organization of having meetings or canceling meetings.
I'm sorry.
I would include all of D under A and to combine it and make it more efficient. Not only can you hold the regularly scheduled meetings, you can cancel the scheduled meetings. They are two parts to the same issue. Right here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think you have to keep them separate though, because it's clear. One is about a meeting, one is about a cancellation.
Don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Okay.
I would
Yep.
put them together if it were me.
Okay.
I'm good with separate.
My second comment would be, in our primer meetings, the discussion has come up among the new members about a regular cadence and regular reports so that there is business every month.
Mhm.
I don't know how that will play out when we finish and present you our draft
Okay.
primer.
Yep.
But that is something that we want the entire board to look at, that there are a number of, and maybe the business is nothing, but there may be requests for Board of Adjustment based on, I want 2 ADUs in my backyard, I want something else. Even if that is not current, the knowledge and trends of that information comes up continually in our discussions related to the primer.
Sure.
So yes, cancellation can occur, but I would share with the board and the chair that the subcommittee has looked at this and said we should have a regular cadence every month, no matter what, to be aware of.
In which case there would be content that you know about, that we don't know about at the time. So it wouldn't be, if you got no business to discuss, there would be something like, no, every January we discuss this and every February we.
But just so we're clear, to me, any updates have to be material updates, not gonna be these small, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I think it has to be a material update. There are opportunities that we can also receive updates from planning services by email. So if they've got some type of report, things like that, that don't warrant a discussion, then I think that also works too. But I understand what you're saying, and I do. But I just think that if we've got, and this goes back to my business world, that we would always have regular scheduled meetings, but if there's really nothing material to come before us, then that we weren't gonna spend our time making googly eyes at each other when we could be off doing other things and doing other work. But I understand, I get what you're saying, the cadence is important. Yeah.
So I think that once we complete our primer and we present what those are, I'm just making the board aware
Yep.
that that has come up in our discussions several times.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly, I don't think you want to get into the cadence of not having meetings.
Mhm.
That's always a dangerous thing, and it's like, why bother having the board? But on the other side, yeah, because even if we don't meet in December, if we have matters before us, we're gonna meet. You know, if there's nothing happening of any material importance, then we can see about not meeting, so, but good point. Okay, D's good, Everybody,
Larry, can I just go back
Yep.
one moment to the previous paragraph about the live streaming
Sure.
and recording not being available? How does the content of that particular meeting get recorded?
The clerk.
minutes,
Takes minutes.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if the clerk is on vacation, then maybe.
Brad, you can take minutes, right?
No.
You never read
Frank would do it.
You volunteer? All right, we gotta volunteer.
Yeah. We would draw straws, is what we would do. And that would include even the liaison, you know, and
He's
we.
adding that to the vice chair job.
Yeah, you would never be able to read my minutes. So, but you know, Tori also, just for the folks that are watching at home, Tori keeps the device on the table that records everything. So besides the broadcast we have going on, Tori is also recording and she's sitting there typing. So we've got these fail safes all the way along the way.
And I have a recording on my computer.
And you're recording on your computer.
Okay.
It ain't super bad.
Just out of curiosity, I see you typing over there. I'm thinking about minutes. Do you let your recordings be automatically transcribed too?
They
Or
are.
do you use them as to supplement what you're doing?
Well, they're transcribed, but then I go back and transcribe them again because it picks up wonky words.
Yeah.
But also for the
Like
notice
googly eyes?
that the recordings are counted as minutes. So,
Really?
yes. Even though that I don't have a physical,
Do you have to have a transcript of those recordings?
you can have an audio visual
And that counts
as minutes.
under North Carolina statutes as legal minutes?
Tori does get a transcript after the.
Yeah.
I can just provide it, yes.
Yeah, I know you can do that, but the recording itself counts as minutes.
Yes, I can.
I have a slight segue. You mentioned email
Yep.
communication.
Yep.
Right now, the board members probably are all using personal email. In the past, there's been city email set up, and the intention was to move to that. But it sort of happened and didn't happen. I would think it would be good to go back to that. One, everybody's email is posted on the city website along with their cell phone number. I think it should be the public email addresses, and therefore everybody needs an email set up. Within that portal, you can have it forwarded to your personal email, which is what I did if I would to receive one there.
I don't know why the city hasn't been doing that any longer, but I've challenged Tori on this whole thing with the emails and the phone numbers and the triangulation that can be done with addresses and hackers and everything else. So I've challenged that policy of the city when it puts our names out there and things like that. So I don't think we've settled on that, but what's preventing us from having city email addresses? Anything?
I think the cost of each email address was one of the things that had come up, but I will go back and check with the manager and see what it was.
We're also expecting to get new emails, the city staff are, we're moving to like a .gov, right?
We are as well.
So I think that might be a hurdle. So why give you an email address then make it void after change?
Yeah, I think you'd have some automatic forwarding set up with the old address, but I get what you're saying. So yeah, let's see what we can do to get that
The other issue
rolling.
legally and from a cybersecurity standpoint is that to go in and either FOIA is not the correct term for the state, I forget what the correct term is.
Public record request.
Thank you, public record request and or legal issues from an outside an attorney by a
Discovery.
discovery motion creates problems for if they're looking at planning board responses to the group, to others behind the scenes. They can request all of those, both from the public notice as well as, and by having individual emails, you then increase the privacy issues and some of the other issues that come on. So when you're making the request for the license cost, it goes to the suitability of the city being able to defend itself from emails and other capabilities. Sorry,
It's fine.
just a thought.
No, I get what you're saying. Anyways, yeah, if you could look into it. We should have that by Friday, probably.
Of course, Thursday.
You know, the thing is, the costs are so, nowadays of email, additional emails are so insignificant. They really are. I mean, it's the company that's running the websites, well, it just adds another one, adds another one. You know, you're doing groups of them anyways.
It depends on what their contract states. It can be very expensive
Yeah.
based on packages. So if the
Yeah.
city purchases a package of 50 emails or 100 emails, once they go to 51, they pay for 100. It depends on who their contract is with and how that contract is set up related to Microsoft licenses. And now Microsoft wants them all in the cloud because once you generate that license, sorry, I'm on the soapbox, you also have to have the site so that you have the site for storage and records, and you have to define those items as you set them up.
Mhm.
So if you go to SharePoint
Yeah,
or PowerPoint or Word or whatever else, they're all encompassing. So you can get cheaper emails, but you have to record or request
Yeah,
that package, and that's all city stuff and budget stuff, so good luck.
Tori, do we know how many people have a city email now?
On the board of aldermen,
Only the
plus
board,
the regular staff.
plus the regular staff. It seems to
Now,
me,
there are some
because
of the planning board members that do have that.
I thought,
Did they get removed?
I think they are getting removed. I thought that they had.
But I don't know.
I don't know if they, when that was supposed to take place, but I thought that they were going to be removed.
can we follow up on that too? Then?
it would seem to me, this is just me talking now, it seemed to me that it'd be more important for you guys to have a city email because things become discoverable. You gotta have your name and email in the public record.
Hmm.
Why not have a city email? And a city phone, well, city phone, I don't, but city email. Again, I don't know what the legalities are there. They apparently had them for a while, then took them away. Is that right?
Because of cost?
Because of
That was
cost.
my understanding. A lot of people didn't use them,
Yeah.
so they were just sitting there. And then I think the cost of them, I'm not sure exactly how much they were costing.
Yeah, you know, but I think in addition to what Alderman Lay is saying, we're a volunteer board. If the city just has to pony up a little bit of money for email addresses, I think the city should pony up. You know, it's not getting paid the big bucks, the aldermen are getting paid on a monthly basis, you know, with all the benefits they have of doing all that. So, but yeah, I would like to see.
They're taking that Tylenol.
Anyways, I think that, let's see what we can do to get this set up, and that way everybody, especially if we can forward the emails on automatically, then you don't have to go logging in all the time, because I think that's the problem, is that people had to log on. So they would never log on, which means they were never looking at their emails, and, yeah. Okay.
I've got 75 robo emails. Probably some of you have gotten the same thing about Mr. Board Member.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting.
You said like.
Every day.
They go through those emails.
Same.
and scrape them.
Same.
Yeah.
The same
I
thing.
didn't get, no, not those I
I
had.
didn't get the call though.
I didn't get anything.
No, I've got the dozen phone calls from someone. All right, let's keep moving.
Quick question just for clarification. So
Yeah.
the 24 hours, notice if the meeting's gonna be canceled.
Yeah.
Is there anything special about that? Is that just kind of courtesy? What happens if it's 23 hours and we have a meeting and then?
No, I think if people would be reasonable. If suddenly this building is flooded and we have to cancel the meeting, you know, if it's an hour before, it's an hour before, that's the way it's gonna be.
Okay.
But I think this just provides a guidance so that it gives a reasonable notice to members based on reasonable occurrences. You know, certainly if there's an emergency and like I said, floods and anything else that we have going on, you know, any other types of events that, yeah, I mean, we should be able to be reasonable enough that cancel meeting at a moment's notice if there's just no facilities.
So there's certain rules for that. So you can't just like cancel a meeting because it's flooded. So you would have to recess to a different location or at a different time.
Open here and then go somewhere else and table it or what?
Right, so there are statutes for that.
So tell me about the 24 hours then.
The 24 hours.
Yeah, we've got it here 24 hours. So you're saying that if it's less than 24 hours, we cannot cancel a meeting?
It depends on what kind of meeting it is again.
Mhm.
And again, for like the emergency meetings, you have to notify the public 6 hours ahead of time. At least 6 hours ahead of time, it says. Meeting cancellations.
So if you do 24, that gives you a reasonable thing. And then if you arrive and there's no facility, then you go from there.
Well, D covers specifically where there's no business to come before the
Yeah.
board, so that's something you would know
Yeah,
somewhat in advance. It's not like an emergency
yeah,
situation.
okay. But what about emergencies then for cancellation of meetings? This, as you said, only goes to the no business part. I think you just have to figure it out as you go. That's one of those on the fly.
If it's an emergency meeting that you just called for an emergency, I don't think you're gonna emergency cancel your emergency meeting.
One would hope,
You might, but
might not be. Yeah. Okay.
I've heard more from Bob. than-
And these rules can also
Laughing at all these jokes.
be changed in the future going forward if we realize it's like, if we decide, oh, we have to have a meeting every time because there's so much public comment planning board
Mhm.
meeting, then maybe that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
But that's not the case now, but
Yeah. And these things can always be changed. So, all right, let's roll. Quorum, full members. Okay. Can't call a member, chair cannot call a meeting to order until such quorum is present unless after waiting reasonable time past the meeting schedule starting time, the chair determines there is no hope of obtaining a quorum. Basically, a Robert's Rules of Order kind of thing, you know. And of course, if the quorum ceases to be present anytime, the chair shall note the lack of quorum or the cessation of the business and adjourn the meeting. So if we have 4 members and somebody has to go, that the meeting stops. We just cannot keep on going. You have to have a quorum in order to vote.
I think we already talked about this, but the quorum can include, when necessary, the alternate.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, including the alternate, right?
By the way, as an aside, any update on whether or not we can bring an alternate in?
I can't give you any update on that at this meeting. Yeah. So conduct of the meeting, everybody's good for all that section, all the way through E, right?
Yes.
Okay, conduct of the meeting. Planning board meeting agenda will be determined by the planning services director and the planning board chair. Mo and I, just so folks know what happens is, we usually will do 2 things. We'll start by emails going back and forth and what we have in the queue, as well as Mo and I will also generally meet about a week before the meeting, just to go over what we have and what I think might be important, what she thinks might be important, and then we decide what's going to be on the agenda. So it's a pretty well thought out and vetted process that works really well. So just so you understand how that works, and then why absence, Fred would be doing it with me. So we do the agenda package, and then we we shoot to getting it out more than 72 hours before the meeting, which I think is reasonable. So generally on that Monday morning, the agenda should be out with all the documents that you need for the meeting so that you're prepared coming in. There is always an opportunity that there could be some supplemental items. But I can't imagine that you would actually have something on an agenda without a supporting document outside of having something supplemental to that added along the way. So one question on your items not identified in the agenda will not be considered during a planning board meeting unless approved by the majority vote. So it does allow you to do things outside of the agenda. But one of the things that we also try to do is when we do the round table, to me, that's an open forum. So if you want to talk about things, then I don't think if you really have something that's important, you want it added to the agenda, you can actually make a motion to have it added at any time. Just like you could make a motion to remove things as well. But That's why we do the roundtable. So if you've got some supplemental things that you want to talk about that are important to you, I don't think that shouldn't require a vote. We all have that opportunity.
That is the agenda, right?
Yeah, and it is on the agenda, right?
That's the board.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yep. Of course, all meetings are open to the public. Meetings shall be conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised. We should probably add where appropriate on here. Because you could have things in here that are outside. There's Doug, who is our Robert's Rules of Order expert. It's Robert's Rules of Order like this are a guide. So I think if we have some things that are different than I think that's what I'm thinking. We should add a little bit of verbiage to that. What do you think, Doug?
I
It
mean,
doesn't matter.
it read okay to me.
Okay. All right.
Larry, I had sent you comments.
Yep.
Kind of similar, saying where the two conflict, the articles.
Yeah.
If we want to get that.
Yeah. Get that technical. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't distribute those. I should have had them as part of this package. Yours too, Doug. Make sure that you go out the next time. Order of business, the board's business shall be placed on the agenda according to the order of business listed below, followed by general consent of the board items may be considered out of order. So meaning, you want to take something out of order, if you want to do staff reports first, because Mo has to roll onto another meeting or what have you, you can do that. So as a board, anybody is able to just say, I'd like to do this one up front, or if you have somebody that's come in for a presentation and they're also having a conflict with appointments and times and things like that, you can do that along. So the general idea is you call the meeting to order, the invocation, pledge of allegiance, public comment on non-agenda items, approval of the agenda, approval of minutes, committee reports, old business. So an old business could be anything that we've already worked on. Okay. New business, rezonings, conditional rezonings, special use permits, major site plan. These are just examples, so it could be anything. Yeah, well,
If I may,
yeah, absolutely.
Chair, for the public comment, we need to remove on non-agenda items.
Okay,
So the public can comment on any items at the planning board level, since you do not hold regular public hearings.
okay,
And I would like to remove special use permits, since that is governed by the Board of Adjustments.
okay, take that out. So the only question I have about non-agenda items. Somebody wants to come in at a public comment period and say they don't like the work that Frank Lay is doing on the Board of Aldermen. To me, that's not a reasonable, I think we have to be able to limit the discussion that's pertinent to this board. Not just having somebody come in and say, I think Frank should, do this instead, that he should vote this way. So that's where that's coming from. So I think we just need maybe a little bit better wording than non-agenda items.
Why does it matter? Okay. you
Because
might
I don't think this board is the forum for other things going on in the city that don't pertain to our business. So it's got to be planning board oriented.
If you don't narrow them down, we're gonna be out here in left field, people bringing everything in the world to you. You gotta, in my opinion, you gotta stick to the specific agenda items, those things that are before you at that point in time.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Board of Aldermen. Somebody, you're talking about X and somebody comes in and wants to talk about Y and Z, and they occasionally try to slip that in on you. And we're talking about a specific thing, and they're out here bouncing around in left field or right field, and it just adds to what's already an excruciatingly long meeting.
Yeah.
So if the comments are about planning board work, but not on the agenda, it may spur new business, new thoughts, new capabilities related to that.
Yep.
And we are supporting, as an advisory board,
Right.
the residents.
Right.
So when I see non-agenda items, to me, it may be planning board non-agenda items. Essentially, I see it as related to the planning board, but maybe not on this week's
Yeah,
meeting list. Because that's how we might look at a performance bond. John brought that up in a previous meeting, but maybe a citizen looks at that. Or, hey, we don't want any franchise businesses downtown,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know how we capture that, but I see that as a non-agenda item.
Yep.
Giving us an alert.
how about if we change it to public comment on planning board related non-agenda items? And the reason, we are an advisory committee to the Board of Aldermen. So the Board of Aldermen had this huge umbrella, so anybody can go into the Aldermen and say, hey, we want to talk about the planning board, we want to talk about the Board of Adjustment, because we're all appointed by the Aldermen, so they have this much larger umbrella. Our scope is so much smaller and is not as wide as the Aldermen have, so that's why I just think you need to have planning board related.
But I thought Mo was gonna say something because she had a big,
Go for it.
I don't want it to restrict, you can say planning board of, items, but it needs to not say non-agenda items because there are not public hearings. Someone wants to come and speak about something on the agenda, they have the ability to come in.
So
so it's agenda and non-agenda.
Yeah,
items.
so it wasn't about public planning board per se, when I was speaking earlier, it was about the fact that it said non-agenda items.
I
only.
agree. I
So,
agree.
so if we
It has to
change
be
it,
both.
so how about if we do public comment on planning board related items? Will that work? Yeah,
And we're not required to respond to public comment, right? So if somebody wants to come in and talk about what happened at the Alderman meeting,
yeah,
we just listen and say, well, nice comment. Right? I mean, we're not,
yeah, but I think if it's Board of, Alderman meeting related, I would say they're on the border.
Who's deciding what planning board is?
Right.
I think we all will.
But who's gonna have that? That's gonna open a very broad,
I think if it doesn't fall under our auspices, jurisdiction on however you want to put it on the UDO, if it doesn't have something to do with zoning or something to do with planning, it has something to do with Frank is annoying somebody on the Board of Aldermen. I don't want to hear it, I don't think we should hear it. It's not
But
our
he's in
place.
Hawaii as a planning board liaison.
Yeah, well, then if they say, they say, as the planning board liaison, I want to talk about Frank, then you have to go, but you understand what I'm saying, though. I think we want to make sure that people are coming in and going to the appropriate board for any items that they want addressed. And this is what you want to do. So if they want to come into us and talk about zoning, they want to talk about a certain type of business, they want to do those sort of things, then I think it's appropriate. But if it's anything outside of our scope, I don't think we should be entertaining it.
So you want to knock them down when they stand up and they go, blah, blah, blah. You're going to, nope, that's not related to us. That's how you're going to handle that public.
I would probably do it a little bit kinder than that.
I do everything bluntly. It works for our storytelling.
Yeah. I would knock them down,
Okay.
but I would be gentle and say, I think that's more appropriate. Or there's that Board of Aldermen liaison, you know what? Why don't you two go out on the porch, have that nice conversation,
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I can live with it either way. I
Yeah.
think people become so upset as residents that they just want to sound off a little bit.
Sure.
And they do that at varying meetings in
Yep.
way different ways than we can understand because something is bothering them.
Yeah. But in order to get there.
I don't think you have the business of people to conduct.
Hmm?
You have the business of people to conduct.
Right.
So like, if the comment doesn't have pertinence to what you are there to conduct business about, you guys,
Say thank you.
yeah, thank you, and just move on.
Yeah.
This doesn't really seem like it's a thing that happens that often,
No,
at least not at this level.
listen,
I mean,
we're,
at the Alderman level, I imagine it happens every meeting.
yeah. Listen, I'm, as the chair, I'm not gonna shut somebody down immediately unless it's so way out of.
It was a joke. It's
No,
okay.
no, I know what you mean. I do. But I always want people to have that opportunity to speak, as we all do. But I think there are some times, you say we've got people's business to deal with and we need to,
I think we're okay with public comment on any
Okay.
board items.
thank you.
all right, so wait, what do we
It's
decide?
gonna say public comment on planning board related items. I like this discussion. This is, you always think a lot of these things are gonna go along you know, without, this is just a great board, so this is working out really well. So approve, go ahead, Doug.
So just to raise a point, I think Tori's question is the procedure is somebody's gonna address the question or comment to the chair. And I think what I just heard you say is you'll make the decision at that moment whether or not you're going to accept it or reject it or turn it over to the board. Maybe you want to reject it, but but it's your call as the chair.
Actually, I would still consider it the board's call. So yes, I can say that, but if you differ with me and Fred agrees, you make a motion, say, I'd like to allow them to speak. There you go. I mean, I think that's an allowable motion.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
okay, because I could have, certain feelings about a subject that might be a little, sore to me, and you guys might want to hear it anyways. And I think that's it's a fair comment that you should have that opportunity. So yes, so I think in a case like that, I don't think a motion like that would be out of order.
Okay. Good.
So, yeah.
I'll step back just one. The term that we used here is old business. I think that old business is closed business. The term of Art and Roberts is unfinished business.
I think you'd find in city government that old business is used as a common throughout all the different agendas.
Okay.
Then it's basically old business, which is unfinished business.
Okay.
If you could have some things that are finished and they're still old business. You know, so when cemetery committee, we might have asked Tom for an update and on mowing or something like that, upkeep of the cemeteries, in a sense that would be old business. Even though there's no business to be finished because it's considered an update, a continuing update, if you will.
Okay.
Unless anybody thinks otherwise, and I think if you put unfinished, yeah, it just means you haven't got something done, and that's not always the case, but. Not the group on that. All right, new business. So more, we're good on rezonings, conditional rezonings. And again, these are just, I think we should just add examples to this.
So I have a comment on the removal of the special use permits.
Yep.
There is a section in the UBO of special use permits and what is listed. I'll use our favorite, the tattoo parlor. So I do think the special use permit applies, but not in the way that it can be taken, which is whether we approve it or not. We approve the list of items in the UDO for special use permits.
And that would be a text amendment.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing I would consider adding is subdivision, major subdivisions. You wanted to add that, but I mean, that would be other types of business. That's one of the other major functions.
How does the major subdivision vary versus major site plans?
Major subdivision is the true subdivision of land itself. And the board provides a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen for the subdivision.
Okay.
And major site plan is a site-specific plan
Okay.
that outlines the standards of the UDO, and the planning board has been the final decision maker for that.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll take out special use permits because they fall under text amendments, and I'll insert major subdivisions instead, if everybody's okay with that.
Is that where comments, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please
and,
go.
Is that where comments like paving for, Cottage Cove or wherever, that's a major subdivision, they have issues, is that where there are discussions related to that?
Be staff reports.
No, that would be, that is specifically for an application for a subdivision as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then we'd roll into, staff reports. Board of Alderman liaison comments and, board comments. I think all of those are important because I think you need to have people have that opportunity to have some freewheeling comment period. So if we want to hear from Frank, if we want to hear from Mo, is always going to have staff reports for us, or Wendell will. So that's important to have those, and that way, by having those staff reports come up first, gives us in the Board of Aldermen, if they have any, action items for us. That's where we can also look at it as board comments, and also have anything else at the board may have. Okay. Again, this is just an example. It's not always gonna be exactly like this, but at least it shows that these are the things that we're gonna show on the agenda. So,
Larry,
Yep.
for staff reports, do we want to list some examples of staff reports we expect to see? Legislation, upcoming permits?
yeah, so that report that I sent over to Mo that she's working on, that it has, I hope, did I send out a copy to everybody? I failed on that. I will send you,
I'm sorry.
No,
I
I'm
wasn't speaking
listening.
to you. I know, I wasn't speaking to you. I apologize.
oh, sorry, I thought maybe you were gonna offer up.
No.
Yeah. So I sent Mo over this draft pipeline report. I think I talked about it the last time, which is the dashboard is just a summary of everything that's going on in the city from the planning board, items related to the planning board. With a pipeline, we'll talk about things such as, yesterday we were at the Alderman's meeting and they did a annexation of Osprey Landing, about 45 lots, 9.9 acres, so to be an annex into the city as part of Southport. So those sort of things will be on there. So when you get that report, it'll break down things, legislative items, what's in the pipeline, major site plans that might be coming in, other items. So so when you ask about it, I'll send it out and let me know if anything's missing. And I'm sorry that yeah,
You showed us that in the last
I
meeting,
did.
but you did not send it,
yeah,
or if you sent it, I wasn't on the list.
yeah.
I haven't
I'll
seen it.
email it. Yeah.
Went to your city email address.
Damn, I'm gonna have a lot of reading when I get done.
Yeah. But anyways, so with the whole idea of that staff, that's what and now Mo's work or Wendell's work is not limited to that report, but it does give us something in writing to refer back to, and I think that's important because then the Alderman can use it as well. So that I think there's so much work going on that I don't think planning services gets the credit that they should be getting for everything that's going through
And
there.
that goes back in line with our primer handbook when we were talking about that,
Mhm.
looking at regular written reports on a monthly basis. So that goes hand in hand, but it came up as a suggestion to the planning board and that's how we present it versus
Yeah,
just the primer. So that's great.
yeah. And they're working together. So that way and I agree, you have to have something so that, in my mind, you need something tangible on a monthly basis so that you know what's happening in the city. You know, even if they might be coming in, and that's where Mo would certainly tell us if she's got an ear to the ground saying, I know this company's looking at opening this kind of space up or coming here or building this building on like that. So Mo and I, when we met last week, she's gonna try to get that done for the November meeting. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of historical work. But it's, and we've got codes for everything. If you notice, everything has some type of text amendment code 25-01. Yesterday at the meeting, what was the one for the annexation? I think it was ANX-25-01. So that way it's a lot easier to refer to these things because sometimes you go, all right, which subdivision is this? Which text amendment is this? So by categorizing them as they have been doing, it makes it a lot easier to go back historically and make sure you're looking at that right UDO text amendment. Okay. I will send that out. It was still good on November, right? Okay. At least if we have it 75% there, I think that would be roll pretty well. All right. Anything else on the agenda at all? Okay. So this next section, zoning map and development ordinance text amendments, kind of rules into what we're doing with the handbook as well. So I don't know if we want to do this. And we don't really have a hearing on these, do we, Mo?
No.
So H would not even be,
That's correct. I was gonna recommend removal of that.
yeah, so we'll take that out. So I'm sorry, then let me jump back to G. Mo, were there any issues that you saw with this? Part of this is to make sure
This
that,
is all outlined in the UDO.
yeah,
I don't know if this is really the correct place, other than since it's true procedure more of the staff on that for some of these. Now, when you go over to the recommendation of the staff and then the conclusion of the staff report, then the board shall make a recommendation and talk about your role as the recommendation board. But I think that saying when they have to be submitted to the planning staff and our review and advertising, that's all outlined in our UDO statutes.
Okay, so do we need G?
I don't think it is
Okay.
necessary.
What does the board think?
Well, I guess paragraph 4 at the bottom there, is that something that still needs to stay?
Yeah.
Because yeah, 1 and 2 looks really staff.
Yeah, Mo, so do you have something in the UDO that states that recommendation of the planning staff shall be delivered to the board members at least 72 hours prior to the meeting?
I do not have that in UDO.
See, I like that. I think we need that sort of thing in there so that the board can be educated on the matters at hand. We go through the agenda and things like that. Yeah, it's certainly section 1 and 2. That's really outside of our wheelhouse because it has to do with planning stuff. It has to do with advertisement and when things have to be sent to the planning department. That's not our role.
So is that a duplication on the 72 hours? Because if we're having an agenda that needs to be provided to
Yep,
us
yep.
with all of the documents,
Yeah, it is a duplication.
then you have the 72 hours in the section that says all of the meeting agenda items and the assisted documents
Mhm.
should go together. So even though it's technically not in the UDO, we discussed it as being in the UDO previously under the package of information.
Mhm.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing as I was looking at it. What's the board's feeling on G1 and G2 or the whole thing? I do like what John said about, it does give you some, these are how you decide. Recommend, not recommend, on.
So that comes out in the UDO on page 2-18, almost word for word, and it follows under the section for site plans. If the plan approval is denied, the reason for this action shall be communicated.
But it does give you, right, even though it's in the UDO, there's other things that are in the UDO that are in here. This gives it some,
Right.
just the board some guidance on. Without having to dig through the UDO. Think of this as almost like a UDO light in a way.
But it's a guidance and it doesn't have to be followed, because it's rules and procedures that are
Yeah.
supplemented, correct?
Yep.
But part of this is for public education too. They need to, if somebody wants to know how this process works, they could look here or in the,
Yeah. Or we could do this. Can we leave this for now? Because I think we need to go home and really look at this and give some thought to it on whether we need it or not.
With the whole section G?
No, I think the whole thing, because as Fred said, he's got an important point that the public could look at this and say, all right, I want to know when things are due, but I think you have to say this, you have to refer to the UDO though for specifics.
Well, I'd say the difference between 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 are really staff.
Yeah, so maybe take out 1 and 2. Or just put in staff or something to. Could add staff in front of it, just put staff, on dot, and then right in front of the page, write staff with a hyphen, so that you know it's staff.
I just worry if the statutes or the UDO get changed, it's just one more thing we have to update.
Yep.
So I think having a recommendation from staff, delivering it to the board, and then that the board does, then how the board does the recommendations, I think that is important to include, but when we get the application from the applicant and when we have to make sure we get our notices out are governed by statute.
So scratch 1 and 2,
That would be my recommendation.
it's the board thing.
What if we
That's
made
up to the board.
reference to the UDO dash dash dash, where somebody wants to see the nitty gritty, they know where to go. And not being redundant, we're just saying, go here to see the real verbiage.
Could you do number 2? The administrative procedure for review and consideration of zoning map and zoning ordinance text amendments are specified in the zoning ordinance and general standards 160D, blah, blah, blah. And we take out the rest in addition to the notice, vote requirements, take all that out. And then take out 1. So you scratch 1, keep the first sentence to 2, keep 3 and 4.
I'm good with that. Mo, there's no scenario where we have to vote on something where you didn't have enough time, you didn't have the 21 days to review the application.
The application, see, this doesn't even, we have 30 days to review the application for completeness. Then we have a TRC meeting within another 30 days. So this doesn't happen. So I will always have an application 21 days prior to the, I mean, it would have. So now this is not talking about a site plan, this is talking about a text amendment and zoning amendment. So then that begs the question, do we want to add a section for each procedure that the planning board has? Because you're looking at zoning map and development ordinance text, like you're doing map and text amendments, that's talking, this is not what's your recommendation. You've got your preliminary plat subdivision, major subdivisions, that's kind of a different, it's very similar but different, maybe you say zoning map, or development ordinance or subdivisions, you don't do the recommendations to the board of aldermen, but, so there are different procedures, so this is just specifying for those zoning text and map amendments.
Yeah.
I also think it's not symmetrical to the agenda items. Rezonings, conditional rezonings, if you're going to have new business in those areas, including text amendments, then the rules and procedures for the planning board committee should follow the agenda headers and items. And that's being really picky, but it removes some of the misunderstandings between what are internal staff procedures and what are the voting elements related to that. I also think that there is an element that is missing, which when I look at the UDO and I compare it to the rules and procedures, the comprehensive plan, which is going to be voted on by the Board of Aldermen and is coming forward for 2050, has very specific objectives. We do not even consider in our agenda the comprehensive 2050 plan and what we might be supporting going forward related to those planning elements.
That's where the text amendments come in.
Not completely.
Well, those are considerations for every application subdivision and the text amendment, map amendment comes through. There is a section that speaks about consistency with the land use plan, and that is part of the discussion of those decisions and recommendations of the board.
Yeah.
And staff can't make a recommendation if it doesn't meet the comp plan standards.
Okay.
So, I mean, that is our impetus to launch our recommendation and then therefore you guys can take that information.
I take it more literally because of the number of action items and objectives within the comprehensive plan. That really sets the vision for the city and what the planning board, in my opinion, should be looking out to the future of the people that go to us and look at us. And even though we are supposed to take it into consideration, up until I got on the board, you couldn't find the comprehensive plan. It was very difficult to locate it as a resident, to identify what are you, the city people, really working on and towards for the city. And so hence the reason I emphasize the comprehensive plan, looking at where it goes, what it does, because I don't think it's well done. There are some strategic goals for 2023 on the website that really don't necessarily go along with the 2020 CAMA land use plan. And there's a lot of different language that is incorporated and you have to go, okay, which one are we following? So again, from a planning board perspective, I see the comprehensive plan as being out in front all the time. But as to zoning, I would match the headers to make our procedures match what we're gonna talk about in the meetings. That would be my comment to the chair.
So you're thinking that all the procedures in here, are we talking about like section G, have multiple section Gs? Defining each one, because I think if you scratch, maybe reword G to say new business or however you want to do it, so that you're not looking just at zoning map and development orders. The meat of this is really the recommendation of the planning staff shall be delivered at least 72 hours prior to the meeting, even though it's duplicative of the agenda does spell it out, makes it specific that, hey, if you want us to consider this, we have to have at least, 72 hours. And then at the conclusion of, I don't know that you call it hearing. That's what you would recommend, because we are recommending board, depending on what it is other than the, well, what's the one we approved? The major site plan? Yeah. So other than the major site plan, the rest of them are recommendations to the Board of Aldermen. So you get what I'm saying? And I know what you're saying too. So that maybe condense this to say, these are how you're gonna act on these particular items.
I like symmetry, so there's no confusion. You're using different wording, and I agree with Mo on the fact that there are city staff elements under rezoning
Yeah.
applications,
Yeah.
and then there are planning board actions.
Right.
And I don't think the rules and procedures as they're written right here actually reflect that separation in a clear way. And I'm not telling you how to write it, I'm just saying.
No, I mean, it's an interesting thought. How do you make it specific without making it too specific?
Well, the rules and procedures, if we're doing, for example, rezonings.
Yep.
The only thing we get to do on rezonings is recommend approval for a rezoning. That means we need to have, is that more than that, Wendell?
Or deny. Yeah.
Or deny. I just say or deny. It's not,
So would you like to have G expanded for each one of these other rezoning, conditional rezoning, major subdivision? You'd like to spell out on each one on what you can do, which,
if this is a
Yep.
guideline
Yep.
that you're trying to accomplish with members of the board so that they know what their responsibility to research
Mhm.
and understand is,
Yep.
then I think you have to map that
Okay.
to what you're saying. Otherwise,
we can do that.
it's creating confusion
Yep.
about, hey, am I doing Wendell's job? Am I looking at 21 days before? No.
But I don't think I get the answer though. Are you looking for, such as what we have in section 4, be listed for each one of these under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Are you talking all of these elements here?
Yeah.
No, I
Okay.
don't think that that is necessary. I think we're adults. I think we need to understand that under rezonings, we should understand X and Y before we vote. And because our voting process is the same. Under conditional rezonings, what do I need to know about a conditional rezoning versus just a general rezoning on the future land use map?
Mhm.
What do I need to know about a major subdivision before I recommend approval? What do I need to know on the so there are elements, and this came up in kind of a struggle with Mo and Wendell in understanding what people do.
Mhm.
What do you need to know on the planning board in order to give your assent, right?
Mhm.
Those are the things that the rules and procedures help you come prepared for to vote,
Okay.
right? And I'm not sure that this captures that, Larry. Like
I
here,
understand what you're saying.
okay,
Yeah, the roles, really, what are the roles and the
what
outcome?
information do I need to
Yeah.
understand a rezoning? Do I need to look at the map? Do I need to know the application's complete? Okay, great, I trust the staff did that. I'm looking at the map, what do I need to consider? Are there any technical requirements? Are there any infrastructure requirements? What are the things I need to think about? Does it map to the 2050 plan that we really want to rezone this for development? That's why I keep coming back to the 2050 plan. Yes, ma'am.
I see that level of detail in your handbook that is being considered as well. And then the procedures say, once the application is received by the planning board, they have, these are the steps that have been taken to make their final recommendation. So that, yes, you have to consider all of those things, but at this rule of procedure level from the other sections in here do not dive as deep as that. And that's just, I just want to clarify what I understand so that we're not duplicating efforts on these two documents.
And I think part of the dilemma is we're doing a primer handbook to orient people to the planning board. We're doing rules and procedures, and then we have a UDO. And to me, that's a lot of information to figure out what do we really need? Because based on your last comment, you'd say, Maria, here are the things you should vote on. Rezonings, conditional rezonings, major site plans, major subdivisions, text amendment, right? Okay, how do I vote? I vote, do I recommend as requested? Do I not? So to me, they're all the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And so again, the clarification of rules and procedures. It's a guide. Are you going to point them back to the primer? Are you going to point them back to the UDL? And if you are we just making ourselves kind of more work to some degree?
So should we put this section on hold till you're done with the handbook?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But we argue, and Doug, clarify if I say it incorrectly from my perspective, even in our primer handbook meetings, we go back and forth as to how deep. And we are looking at, okay, how do you get oriented, get assigned to the board? How do you come up to speed with all of this information and know what you're doing? And so we've gone back and forth, sometimes very deep down a rabbit hole, sometimes very shallow. Okay, you need to look at this, and look at this, and leave it to the individual. Because every member on the planning board, although they take a commitment and an oath of office, looks at information differently. So you can't always have everybody singing from the same sheet of music. It just doesn't happen, right? And I think that's where our goal is to have you some type of executive outline and a general draft so that we can move to the rules of procedures and see what goes in which.
Yep. So let me work with you folks and Mo on how we can flush this out a little bit better so that I can take some of what you're working on with the handbook and incorporate it into this without, and this is where staff comes in too. You know, staff is the group that tells us, you know, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. They make the recommendations so that we can make the recommendations. I do want to understand that we're doing it correctly. So let me work with you guys to see how we can flush this out a little bit better then. Okay. Which means not everybody in the subcommittee can meet at the same time because then we'll have a quorum. So you guys will have to pick who you want to do this with, and with Mo and Wendell, you know, three of us can get together for it, type of thing. Okay. Will that work?
I think it'll be easy. Ed has some day commitments. So you'll be looking at me and Doug probably.
3 is the answer. 3 is the answer.
Larry's number 3 then, right? 1, 2.
No.
It'll be some good discussion too, typing it up, what it is we're trying to do. My comment, if we had to make a decision right now, I think John had to go in and is informed essentially by what Mo said is, what are the rules, what are the procedures? Currently, they're supposed to be in this document. And then what do you need to know to get this done? So if we only have the last paragraph, paragraph 4.
Yeah.
That would indicate to me, there's other stuff you need to know. You probably need to go somewhere else to get it.
Yeah.
And in this case, it'd be the UDO.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the handbook fills in some of these gaps, you know,
But I think that makes the handbook too big. And when you look at that, if you're constantly pointing, you actually are burdening the planning board with going back each time to each section, right?
Yep.
And I believe we have a UDO meeting at some point with the Board of Aldermen. Is that coming up or something like that? We were asked
we
to
don't have things
submit,
scheduled now.
we were asked to submit comments to NOAA, right?
Right.
Today.
Yep.
So again, everything's in flux, which is, we almost need like a straw man.
Yeah, I think well, let's work together. I think it's finding the sweet spot
Yes.
of having enough information to make an intelligent decision without having so much that, as Mo pointed out, that if the laws change, that you have to redo all of this section. But I think we can find that sweet spot somewhere between the handbook, somewhere between staff. We can look at this and say, this is how we
There
work.
just has to be a trust level that the staff is doing their job and we
Yep.
ignore that part
Yep.
and do our part,
Right.
right?
Yep.
That's what I'm looking at,
Okay.
because I don't want to reinvent the wheel
No,
and I don't want another 200-page document. That's like,
agreed. Yeah, agreed. Well, you guys could set something up. When are you guys meeting next?
we haven't set one yet. We have another due out. It'll probably be done today or tomorrow. And then we were gonna send it to you, Larry, to look at.
Okay. Have you guys rolled through the whole thing already?
We're still building the structure.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
okay. All right, so but in the meantime, you know, there's no reason why we can't get together and just flush so we can continue on with this work. And go from there, and we can play back and forth. I mean, it's written on a computer. We can change things as we go along. You know,
No
so-
way.
Yeah, yeah, can you imagine? We don't need to use whiteout anymore. Okay. Let me write this down so I get the right section. Okay, we've got about 20 minutes left. So the next section is kind of, this should generate discussion that may continue on to the, and I'm skipping over H we've taken off because we're not doing any hearings, okay? So on I, public address of the board, this is a section that could be, debatable, or not debatable, depending on how the board wants to do it. But there's some questions on here on, that are gonna, we really need to talk through, so. The following applies to members of the general public and does not apply to an applicant in relation to his or her case. Sign up for non-agenda items, so we can take out, for public address, take out the sign up for, just sign up.
Well, keep reading, because I think non-agenda items are explained, and maybe because of our previous discussion.
Yep.
Read through it.
Okay.
And see
So
what
those members of the public who wish to address the board regarding planning related items that are not on the agenda shall print the name on the sign-up sheet to be made available by the secretary immediately prior to each board meeting.
I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
If somebody wants to have, I don't think we're in a position to limit public response. Now,
right,
the chair may say, if 12 people come in and want to talk about something that's totally unrelated, you might say, look, it's totally unrelated,
yeah,
but, we really can't stop this part. If somebody wants to come and speak. Because again, this spills into some sections later that, says the board can address questions and things like that. And that's kind of where I'm at is, you know, we don't have to respond to public comments, but can we, or should we, or when should we?
Yeah. So let's continue on. I agree with what you're saying. Residents of the city or individuals having material interest in the city may comment on any item on the agenda. So it's a big question. Do you allow people that live in, say, St. James to come in and talk about planning aspects and so forth? Do you care what people outside of the city have to say? Do you want to allow them or not allow?
Well, do they have a material interest in the city?
Well, do you even have to have a material interest? You know, do you have to, can you just be somebody that's traveling along and I want to come in and talk to the planning board and I live in New Jersey and I want to let you know what I think.
Well,
you guys should
that's
be
a
doing.
special case down in New Jersey.
So, you know, it's, that whole thing could either stay in or stay out. It just depends on how you want to do it.
I think you have to allow anybody to speak per the First Amendment. Now, if you want to regulate what they speak on, that can kind of get a little hairy, but
Yep.
I think you have to allow anybody from Canada to the North Pole to come in and say, Frank is doing an awful job at his planning.
Mhm.
So part of your planning board kind of thing.
So, want to scratch that?
Which part?
Two.
Or you can say, Frank's doing a great job in his planning. Thank you,
Well,
Frank.
So this is basically saying you have to have material interest in the city and you have to be a resident or individual to have a material interest in the city.
Well, but that's specific to an agenda item. Number one, it's not agenda items. So, I mean, we could combine them and say anybody, you know, I think material interest in the city is undefinable. So if you're from New Jersey and you're driving through, you feel like you have a material interest to come to the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
If you go
There's
to
no
the
defense.
comprehensive 2050 draft plan, it says you have physical, social, or economic. They may have social. They want to do that giant bike ride from Maine to Florida, right? They could have an interest in the city. So if you take the broad view, you're smiling. I know it's
Listen,
boring.
no, I think this is, I knew this would be a good discussion. I love it. Yeah, keep going.
So material interest is not defined anywhere.
Mhm.
I'm okay if you leave it or if you take it out and combine it with number one. I'm okay either way.
Frank, you were gonna,
we've had a couple of instances where people who are not in the city, weren't even in the ETJ, who had or chose to make comments on something that was before the board.
Yep.
And they went on and on and on. One of them had to do with that 400 acres we got out there that's now nature preserve or whatever you want to call it. And their thing was that, well, we're contiguous to it, we're close to it, we have a vested, and we want to make sure it stays that way,
Mhm.
even though they were not within the confines of the city. So, yeah. I think I don't know if you want to keep people from speaking, but my thinking is, and I'm probably wrong, I think you've not narrowed it down to something that's specific to our area here. I don't know what an instance would be where somebody would want to come in and address either the planning board or the board of aldermen, where they didn't have really, in my opinion, a vested interest in what was going on.
Paid parking was a good example.
Paid park, oh my God, yeah, oh, they're waving arms at that.
That was really an imaginative example. I thought it was like a developer or a corporate interest, that they have no, I mean, not residency, even, they are from New Jersey because they're a national or regional developer.
Yeah.
That's what this struck me as. It seems like the key thing that we're interested in avoiding is excessive talking, especially about non-planning board issues.
correct.
And I think because of the procedures whereby everybody is required to address their comment question to you. I mean, you get the gamble. You could shut it down, you could open it up. Apparently, you've indicated to us that if, you're willing to ask us I'm about to shut this down unless you guys have a reason to.
Yeah, and just so as a reminder, I've sourced these from all over the place, and some of these I put in here just to, I don't want to say bait the board, but to kind of bait the board into discussion, because these things could come up. And so whether I believe in some of these or not, they're there so that for this kind of conversation. You're right, as a chair, but I think you still need some kind of guidance. And again, if the board disagrees with me, that's always up for a vote. So.
Well, specifically, I agree with John, material interest in it's too difficult. We spend a lot of words just defining that term, so
Yes.
ditch it.
Let me say, is what they're asking to talk about germane to purpose thing?
It's not the planning board responsibilities, right, which we addressed sort of a little bit earlier.
You don't want motorcycle bike week in Southport. They might have a material interest in that.
That'd be pretty cool,
But
actually.
is it?
Everything goes.
They
I
want
don't
the
know where I heard
road
from.
emptied, okay?
Director Meehan said that, issue, that Southport serves as Brunswick County's downtown. And I think if we look at our community that way, we should by right allow anyone come in to have, if they have material interest or whatever, be able to speak,
About planning board issues.
about planning board issues.
I vote to keep it if you're gonna do a vote, only because I think it's broad enough and you still have control, to Doug's point, that you'll be able to identify it. The bike thing is, remember you were talking about bike trails, right? Everybody wants to go from Maine to wherever. To me, that would be somebody who doesn't live here, they're not a resident, but they might come here every year to vacation, right?
Yeah. Besides the East Coast Sturgis is already in New Hampshire, would have another one down here.
I'm not into New Jersey, so it's okay.
So how would we do this? Can we, so that people understand they can speak, is just say residents of the city or individuals, or other individuals may comment on any item on the agenda.
Yes,
That way it opens up so everybody knows that, hey, it says right here, it's clear that I can speak, so.
Well, it sounds like there's two different procedures for an agenda item and a non-agenda item. If we can combine one and two,
Yeah,
and then at the end say, come sign up.
yeah.
So how about we scratch too, because then you put those members of the public who wish to address the board regarding planning related items that are not.
we want it to be on the agenda too,
Yeah,
Well, we'll just say
period.
related items. And then
If
strike
it's
that or
a
not.
non-agenda item, then does it become an agenda item? Now I'm getting confused. Is that your point, Bill?
There's a public comment on the agenda. So all this would fall under that part of the agenda.
So why don't we say sign up for public comment, period?
okay. But
Let's
that,
reuse the words we
Yep.
already have.
So if I want to come stand up for public comment and start talking about global warming,
It's the chairman's job to say it'd be more appropriate to take that up.
Well, we're gonna keep the rest, planning board related, the rest of it. I'm just changing the little title for number 1 to sign up for public comment. Those members of the public who wish to address the board regarding planning related items that are not on the agenda shall print their name on the sign up sheet.
So they can comment on items that are on the agenda.
Yes,
It's the same process.
Yeah,
So if you say, public-
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so how about
I
we-
see what you're saying.
so how if we say, sign up for, public comment, those members of the public who wish to address the planning board,
Related items, period.
planning board regarding planning board related items shall print the name, blah, blah, blah.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
Too many.
and then take off 2,
Yeah.
because that's covered off in 1, right?
Mhm.
Not to go into the weeds,
But you are, go ahead.
are we going to allow emails?
That's a whole nother area.
Yeah, we got 7
Let's stick with the public comment.
Can we copy what the Board of Aldermen wording is? You know, why reinvent the wheel? Isn't that already there and you read them?
Mhm. They don't, no, I don't think you've got a policy on that, do you?
Not yet, but I mean, there may be one coming.
Yes, there should be one coming.
Stuff happens, right?
Yeah, I know that's,
Oh, we're a non-policy related city? That's cool.
you mean, yeah. Anyways, let's, I'm gonna put emails with a question mark, okay?
I think you're good to avoid it, because the next thing will be is anything on the chat bar, on the,
Oh,
you
God.
know, on Zoom call, and then.
No, I'm vetoing that one.
Don't, we're not gonna do it.
No.
You can't do that. There's no guarantee.
It will get so crazy. So anyway.
Yes, I
so-
can because it's turned off.
So just so we can step back, so under one, it's gonna say, sign up for public comment. Those members of the public who wish to address the board regarding planning board related items shall print the name on the sign up sheet, blah, 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 blah. Okay, secretary immediately prior to each board meeting. Scratch 2. Let's go to 3. If a group or organization is present to speak on any agenda item, only 2 designated representatives will be allowed to address the board. Again, I've got a question mark before, because you can have an HOA come in and say, hey, we want you to take over our streets, and that HOA is made up of 100 members. Do you really want to hear from 100 members, or do you want their representatives to speak on their behalf? Because number 1 through 100 are going to be saying essentially the same thing.
That's not true.
Somebody
According to
did
the
argue
Board of
for having
Alderman
time.
meeting, they argued.
What? But I'm hearing,
I'm sorry.
That's a very valid point there. If you've got 100 people coming in, they're gonna talk about the same subject. They know they're gonna do that. Why in the world don't they pick somebody to be the spokesperson and get it over with, as opposed to hearing the same thing over and over and over again? There's another part to that. The county, at the county level, they have, I think, a 3-minute limit on how long you can speak. Now, we've debated that, and a couple of people on the Board of Aldermen have been very, very vocal and said, we don't want to cut off discussion, but it makes for an incredibly long meeting.
that's actually we're on 3.
Yeah.
Comment time is the next one, which is going to be big. But I agree with what you're saying. So, but when you think about it, it's a group or organization. That doesn't mean that other people in the audience can't speak to it. It's just that if you've got an HOA coming in and you've got 100 members in that HOA, you're going to have them designate people to speak so that you're not here for 10 hours. Go ahead.
Fair. I think the Board of Aldermen meeting last month had some HOA in which people got up and said the HOA representatives were lying and we have a different perspective. That was if you watch it,
I know.
it's like soap opera time, man. I like turn it on and watch, right? But so when you say designated HOA individual, and I'm only using your example because this one was so blatant. My comment would be you could allow for designated representatives and up to 2 counter. You have to figure out how you're going to do that because, again, this goes back to everybody accuses everybody else of something, right? It's back and forth finger pointing.
Yeah.
The other element is I like the 5 minutes, not the 3. I agree with limiting the speech because 3 minutes, there may be some legitimate items. 5 minutes is respectful and allows them to go on a little bit, but we've seen some Board of Aldermen meeting where people are speaking for 20 to 25, 40 minutes, right?
Let's hold off on that part because that's going to be a big discussion. But let's stick with the group or organization for now.
Just bringing up the point, there may
Yeah.
be 2 points of view,
Yeah,
or 3.
it's 6.
Could we say that the chair may limit 2 designated representatives?
That we have asked on a couple of occasions, if you have several of you that are going to speak on the same thing, can you try to limit it? And we've had a couple of people that have gotten up and said, it's already been covered. I'm going to yield my time. But
You could have a line in here that says the board may extend that to others as well. So that way you're not just limiting to just 2 people, but
Right.
based on exactly what you said, somebody else had a counterpoint. And they didn't agree with representatives that were selected. So maybe,
That needs some different wording.
yeah.
We had that the last time at the Cage Cove thing.
Yeah.
Just, we had a couple of people over here and then a couple of others.
Then you want to make sure everybody has an opportunity.
That's correct.
to speak.
And everybody should have the opportunity to voice their opinion. I agree with that completely.
So how about if we just, maybe we just add something, where additional people will be allowed to speak based on the boards. I mean, listen, anytime you guys can make, anybody can make a motion, say, you know what, I've heard from A and B, I really want to hear from C, I'll make a motion, we allow C to speak, type of thing.
Oh, I don't know if that's, I don't know if you can, you're really getting into, they advise not to do that in the clerk school.
Which part?
You're really opening that lawsuit with doing that.
By allowing one person to speak and not the others?
Yes.
So are you saying that the whole group thing is just can't be done?
I don't think that would be a very good thing to allow one person and not others, even though everybody has voted on it and agreed.
So can we add words to?
Because we want to be transparent.
Yeah.
Groups or organizations are asked to combine or designate a speaker.
Yeah.
You can ask them to do that and give them the right. It doesn't require them to do that, but designated groups are asked to choose representatives for their perspective. And then just leave it at that, because it's a rule and procedure. If they choose to, great. If they don't.
Okay.
There's another thing. I mean, if you want to limit one person as well to 5 minutes, you could also set a 30-minute public comment timeline.
Right.
So that there's 30 minutes for the whole time.
Yep.
And if 5 people get through that 30 minutes, that's it. And you can always do it that way.
So we've made great progress. We're averaging 5 pages a time. And this will take another 2 meetings at the rate we're going, which is good. I would rather have this be so vetted like it is that, this is what we're using. So I agree, if we add, if a group of organizations present to speak on any agenda item, they are asked to have 2 designated representatives to address the board. Okay?
1 to 2,
1 to 2, yeah. they
Okay.
can make one.
not required.
1, 2, 2. Okay. I think let's stop there, because the next one is going to be a huge discussion. And I'm going to add, based on what Tori said too, almost a section 6, question mark, total time limit, total public comment time limit. I hate to cut people off. I think freedom of speech is just so
That's
important.
what the clerk is for. Be like, done, get, go.
You're going to do that?
Yes,
So
What
you're
people
the
are talking.
designate.
yes.
You're going to say.
I have 3 boys. I have no problem.
Yeah. Anyway, so next time we come back, let's start on section 4, which is the time limits that we're talking about. And the question here is very basic, is 5 minutes unless the board votes to allow otherwise, a continuation of it. So that if somebody has just hit their 5 minutes and they just have not finished their subject, the board has the ability to say, I'd like to see them give it another 5 minutes, like yield in time, that type of thing. Okay. Is that good? That could be a big discussion, or it might not be, depends on how you feel about public comments and stuff like that. So with that being said, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn, and we will set a date for another special meeting. Any last thoughts on
Mr.
that?
Chair,
Yes,
I
please.
make a motion that we adjourn and set a time for the next meeting.
Okay. I'll work with Wendell. Bob has seconded that, right? I'll work with Wendell and Mo and Tori to see when the buildings and Cheyenne and everybody is
Checking right now.
available. Okay, we'll do that. We'll send out an email and make sure that everybody's available. So motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I would just say great meeting. This is really valuable. I think it's gonna pay dividends when you're all done. So motion made and seconded. Further discussion here and none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so voted, motion carries. Thank you, we are adjourned, and thank you, Southport.